Last night here on NewsNation, Chris Cuomo interviewed Kanye West, who now goes by Ye, in a wild 20-minute discussion about his conspiracy theories, his anti-Semitic comments, and his mental health. Now, before we show you a piece of that segment, I want to reiterate that I believe too many are giving him a pass by attributing all his wild anti-Semitic comments to mental health issues, as opposed to what appears to be heartfelt positions and calculated business decisions. In particular, after he was suspended on Twitter and Instagram for his attack on Jews, he announced yesterday an agreement to purchase Parler, which has become a sort of alternative right-wing version of Twitter, with fewer guardrails and also more freedom to make dangerous, racist, or anti-Semitic comments. But from a purely business perspective, it seems like a smart decision for a guy whose brand appears to be morphing into far-right fringe. Chris asked him directly about his mental health.
When I hear how you talk about your personal life and you put things out there and you get into these looping thoughts of what you believe, it sounds to me like you are sometimes out of control and that this is something that you should be dealing with. Now, I'm not excusing your thoughts as illness, okay? People attacked me for that and said, hey, just because you're concerned about whether Kanye West is taking care of himself emotionally and mentally.
My name's Jay, sir. My name's Jay.
Ye, I'm sorry. Ye is taking care of himself mentally and emotionally. You shouldn't say that. He has to be held to account for what he says. Both things can be true. Have you been taking care of your health and in terms of making sure that you are behaving and thinking at your best?
I love what the way you worded it. What you don't realize is when it runs back, people are going to say, wow, have you been making sure you're behaving? If you run that back.
To Chris's credit, he confronted West. He tried to show some empathy while also calling out his anti-Semitism, which continued in this interview.
The Jewish people that I'm talking about don't have to understand. And that is that privilege that I'm not going to allow. When I wore the White Lives Matter t-shirt, the Jewish underground media mafia already started attacking me.
Now, it's true that Ye has had mental health issues in the past. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2016, received inpatient psychiatric care. But it's leading others in the media to just give him a pass.
Kanye has spoken about having mental illness. I mean, he has talked about having bipolar disorder, and he has said that in his manic mode, he becomes hyper paranoid.
I mean, I don't want to minimize or stigmatize mental health issues, and I hope he gets the treatment that he apparently clearly needs.
He's got serious problems. He's had serious emotional problems. He's had serious mental health care problems, and it's just melting down.
But isn't it possible he isn't melting down, but doubling down? And maybe the folks who think he's mentally ill aren't giving him enough credit for believing what he's saying, including his anti-Semitism. I mean, imagine if another incredibly successful, high-profile person was making similar types of derogatory comments, stereotyping blacks or Hispanics. Would we be talking about his or her mental illness? Look, mental illness is real, and it's a very serious issue in this country. But it can also be a very liberal way to explain away some manifestly irresponsible, deliberate behavior. Behavior from which Ye stands to profit. This is part of his brand, which is now provocative, fringe lunacy. Any arguments to the contrary minimize his conscious decisions. It seems too easy and protective of him to just say, oh, well, he's mentally ill. He wants to own this market, and not just politically, but financially, too. When he wears a White Lives Matter shirt to a fashion show in Paris and aligns himself with far-right extremists like Candace Owens, those aren't necessarily signs of mental illness. They're signs of someone in search of a high-profile, lucrative identity, in search of a brand, something this man has long mastered. Oh, and who stands to profit from Kanye's purchase of Parler? None other than Candace Owens, who's married to its CEO, George Farmer. The timeline here is important. Ye and Candace Owens wore the White Lives Matter shirts in Paris on October 3rd. He then appears on Tucker Carlson's show. He makes the anti-Semitic comments that never aired. And now he's buying her husband's social media platform less than 2 weeks later. Now, to write this off as some sort of manic episode, in my view, is to downplay his business acumen completely. He's unquestionably shown he is a savvy businessman. His apparel brand, valued around $4 billion. Done right, Parler's a good business idea to attract the many conservatives who've had it with Twitter. So why isn't Kanye right that it's insulting for all these people to presume he is mentally ill as opposed to just crazy like a fox? Joining me now is Clinical Associate Professor of Psychiatry at the New York Presbyterian Hospital, Dr. Gail Saltz. So good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
See you, Dan.
Appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having me.
All right, so what do you make of all these people who are immediately looking to his mental illness to explain, in particular, his anti-Semitic comments?
I think it's a lack of understanding of the specific mental illness. Now, obviously, the only person who could truly know what is mental illness and what is not is probably the clinician that would be sitting with him, right, making the diagnosis. So we're only out here. But what I can tell you as a psychiatrist is that anti-Semitism and racism are not part of bipolar disorder. They are not a criteria or a symptom. Now, could you have a delusional system if you're having psychosis as part of bipolar disorder, where you hear voices or believe the delusion that a certain group of people are out to attack you or get you or kill you, and therefore you are against them? Yes, that could happen.
But that's not the way he's talking.
That is not the way he is talking.
Yeah.
So this sort of, I don't like this group, or this group as a whole is bad. That is a viewpoint that is not part of a mental illness. Now, could someone have a mental illness and also be expressing views that are their views that aren't tainted, let's say, by their mental illness at the same time? Yes. Should we be empathetic to their struggle with mental illness? Yes. Should we envelop and condone and accept anti-Semitic and racist statements from a hugely important figure that affects so many people? Absolutely not.
Are you angry at me as a clinician when I say I'm not empathetic? I don't have an enormous amount of empathy, but I give him the credit that he is asking for. He is demanding, he's saying, stop condescending to me. Stop talking to me like I'm mentally ill. That's where I'm coming from on this.
You know, a person can say, stop talking to me like I'm mentally ill, because mental illness is still so stigmatized. You know, if mental illness were viewed the way I view mental illness, which is you have a symptom, it needs treatment, let's treat it. But at the same time, guess what? You also have an incredible potential strength, which he's manifesting. A huge preponderance of artists and musicians and highly successful people have bipolar disorder because it helps them actually be more creative and be more innovative. You can be empathetic to the struggle, but not to a value or an expression of a value that is hateful.
Right. And I guess I'm not convinced that if it were someone else in a different situation that we'd be parsing it this way, right? Someone makes a racist comment, some white person makes a racist comment. We don't say, well, you know, this person 10 years ago, we say the person's a racist, period. And let me play another piece of sound. This is from Kanye's interview, more of it from Chris Cuomo last night.
Where I saw people pulling my coattail, telling me behave, instantly running the narrative that I'm off, that you need to take your meds. Even this was not supposed to be this conversation. I don't get a clean platform to tell my truth without being called out my name, being called subtly, called crazy. Saying I'm out of control.
You know, he has a fair point, because we dismiss people with mental illness as though anything they say, and that is wrong, and that is a problem. However, I will tell you that a symptom of bipolar disorder, when you're hypomanic or manic, is impulsiveness.
Right.
So, you know, jumping out and doing things that might be self-destructive, well, that can be part of bipolar disorder.
But we need to give him credit for being an anti-Semite, right? I mean, we need to just acknowledge, we need to say, okay, we believe you. I believe that you're an anti-Semite.
I think we need to publicly say we can't condone anti-Semitism, and you express that, and that's not okay.
All right. Well, a very good interview from Chris Cuomo last night. Dr. Gail Saltz, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.